The light hits your face and you cannot close your eyes. They have taped your eyelids open with thin medical strips, the adhesive pulling at the skin above your lashes, and the bulb is industrial, the kind mounted on a cheap aluminum stand, and it fills your skull with a white heat that turns your vision into a flat, burning plane. Behind the light, someone is speaking Korean. You do not understand the words, but you understand the rhythm. It is a question, and it requires an answer, and you have been giving wrong answers for what might be hours or might be days. Your wrists are bound to the arms of a wooden chair with coarse rope that has worn through the first layer of skin. The room smells of damp concrete and something sharper underneath. Urine, old sweat, the particular sourness of fear that has soaked into a space over years of use. You are wearing a uniform that is not yours. They dressed you in it sometime after the hood came off. A pressed olive tunic, with buttons you did not fasten yourself because your fingers had stopped working by then, and the collar is too tight against your throat. And you understand with a terrible clarity that this uniform is a costume, that you are being prepared not for interrogation, but for performance. Your mouth is dry, not the ordinary dryness of thirst, but the chemical dryness that comes after days of restricted water, when the tongue thickens and cracks, and every attempt to swallow produces a clicking sound at the back of the throat. They gave you water once, a tin cup, lukewarm, with a faint metallic taste, and you drank it so fast you gagged, and the guard who held it watched you with an expression that was not cruelty exactly, but something more unsettling, a kind of professional patience, the look of someone who has done this many times and knows how the sequence ends. You know how it ends, too. You have seen the tapes. Every soldier in your unit has seen the tapes. Grainy footage shown during resistance training, men in pressed uniforms sitting behind microphones, reading from scripts they did not write, confessing to crimes they did not commit, their voices flat and hollow, their eyes aimed somewhere just past the camera lens. You remember watching those tapes in an air-conditioned briefing room and thinking you would never break. You remember the instructor saying that everyone breaks. You did not believe him then. You believe him now. The room is underground. You know this because when they brought you here, hooded, wrists zip-tied behind your back, shoved into the bed of a vehicle that smelled of diesel and canvas, you counted the steps down. 17 steps. Concrete. Each one slightly uneven, the air growing colder and damper with every descent. The walls are unpainted cinder block, sweating with condensation. There is a drain in the center of the floor, a black iron grate set into the concrete, and you have tried not to think about why it is there. The ceiling is low enough that the tallest of your guards has to duck slightly when he enters, and there are 2 doors, the one behind you, through which they come and go, and another to your left that has not opened since you arrived. You do not know what is behind it. You do not want to know. You are a reconnaissance pilot. Your aircraft went down in disputed airspace. You remember the warning lights, the stick going heavy in your hands, the canopy filling with a sudden unreality as the horizon tilted and the ground rushed up to meet you. The ejection sequence fired. The chute opened. You landed in a plowed field that smelled of wet earth and something fermented. And for 11 seconds you lay on your back looking at a gray sky and feeling the silence press against your ears like water. Then the voices came. Then the hands. Then the hood. That was, you do not know how long ago. They have taken your watch, your flight suit, your survival vest, with its emergency beacon and blood chit, and the laminated card printed in 5 languages promising a reward for your safe return. You trained for this. You completed the survival, evasion, resistance, and escape course at a facility in the woods of the American Southeast, where instructors who had themselves been prisoners subjected you to simulated captivity, stress positions, sleep deprivation, white noise. The box. The box was a plywood container, barely large enough to crouch in, and they left you in it for hours. And when they pulled you out, they asked you questions, and you gave only the authorized responses. Name, rank, service number, date of birth. The Big Four. That is all you are required to give under the military code of conduct. That is all you are supposed to give. The instructors told you the code exists not because it will protect you, but because it gives you something to hold on to when everything else has been taken away. A structure, a wall inside your mind that you can press your back against. The wall is crumbling. They do not use the box here. What they use is worse, because it is not physical. The man who enters the room now is not a guard. He is slight, mid-50s perhaps, wearing a dark civilian suit with a pin on the lapel that catches the light. He carries a folder. He sits down across from you at a metal table that was not in the room before. They brought it in while you were in the stress position, standing with your arms raised against the wall, your forehead pressed to the damp concrete, your calves shaking. And he opens the folder and begins to read from it. And what he reads is your life, your hometown, your training pipeline, the name of your unit, the tail number of your aircraft, the name of your spouse, the school your children attend. He reads these facts in accented but precise English, and he does not look up from the page, and each fact lands in your chest like a stone dropped into still water, and the ripples spread outward, and what they touch is not pain, but something colder and more absolute, the understanding that you are not anonymous, that you were never anonymous, that they knew who you were before you hit the ground. He closes the folder. He folds his hands. He tells you that your government has denied your existence. He tells you that no rescue operation is being mounted. He tells you that according to official channels, no aircraft was lost over this territory. No pilot is missing. No incident occurred. He says this without malice. He says it the way a doctor delivers a terminal diagnosis, with a practiced gentleness that is more devastating than any cruelty, because it implies that the outcome is already decided, that what remains is only the management of what comes next. You want to disbelieve him. You try to disbelieve him, but you have been briefed on this possibility. You know that in certain operational contexts, deniability is the mission parameter. You know that pilots flying certain routes carry sanitized documentation. You know that your flight plan was filed under a cover designation. You know, and this is the knowledge that sits in your stomach like a swallowed blade, that he might be telling the truth. He places a sheet of paper on the table. It is typewritten. You can see the text from where you sit. Dense blocks of Korean characters, with occasional English words embedded in them like stones in mortar. He tells you this is your confession. He tells you that you will read it on camera. He tells you that you will express remorse for your criminal violation of sovereign airspace. He tells you that you will thank the government for its humanitarian treatment. He tells you that when this is done, you will be allowed to sleep and eat and drink clean water, and that a doctor will look at the burns on your wrists. He tells you this is not a negotiation. Then he leaves, and the paper stays on the table, and you are alone with it. You stare at the confession. The English portions are stilted, grammatically awkward, clearly translated. Phrases like, "I have committed hostile acts against the peace-loving people," and "I deeply repent my crimes of espionage and provocation." You have heard language like this before. It is the vocabulary of show trials, of propaganda broadcasts, of statements that no one believes are voluntary, but that serve their purpose regardless, because the point is not persuasion, but demonstration. Demonstration that the captured can be made to speak, that the enemy's soldiers can be turned into instruments of the enemy's message. You know that if you read this, the footage will be broadcast domestically and internationally. You know your family will see it. You know your colleagues will see it. You know that in the briefing rooms where you once sat watching those grainy tapes, someone will press play, and your face will fill the screen, and the room will go quiet, and every pilot in every chair will think the same thought you once thought: I would never break. And you know, sitting here with the rope burns weeping on your wrists and the taste of blood on your cracked lips, that you are going to read it. The door opens again. 2 guards enter. They untie you from the chair and pull you upright, and your legs almost buckle because you have been sitting for so long that the blood has pooled in your feet, and the pins and needles are so intense they feel like electricity. They walk you through the second door, the one that has not opened until now, and the room on the other side is different. It is larger. The walls are painted a flat institutional green. There is a table at the front, a microphone, a glass of water, and behind the table, a backdrop, a large painted insignia, the national emblem, red and blue and bordered in rice stalks. There are two cameras on tripods, bright studio lights on stands, the kind that hum at a frequency you can feel in your teeth. A technician is adjusting one of the cameras, and he does not look at you. There are four men in military uniforms seated to the side, their faces carefully neutral, their posture rigid. An officer stands near the cameras holding a clipboard. The air in this room is different, warmer, drier, treated. They have prepared this space. This is the stage. They sit you behind the table. Someone places the confession in front of you, the typewritten pages now clipped together. Someone adjusts the microphone. Someone straightens the collar of the uniform they have put on you. And the intimacy of this gesture, the fingers on your throat, the small tug of fabric, makes your vision blur, and you realize you are crying. Not sobbing, not making sound, just leaking, tears running down your face into the corners of your mouth where the salt stings the cracked skin. No one acknowledges this. The officer with the clipboard says something in Korean, and the technician adjusts a light, and the red recording indicator on the nearest camera blinks on. You look at the first page. The characters swim. You blink. You find the English. You open your mouth, and here is what you do. The thing they did not teach you in resistance training. The thing no manual covers. The thing that only emerges in the absolute collapse of every other option. You read. But you read wrong. Not obviously wrong. Not garbling words. Not refusing. Not making a scene that would cause them to stop the tape and start again with harsher methods. You read with the flat, dead cadence of a hostage. The voice emptied of everything that would make it sound voluntary. You mispronounce words that you know how to pronounce. You place emphasis on the wrong syllables so that to any English speaker, the artificiality is unmistakable. You blink in a rhythm. Long, short, short, long. A pattern that is not random, that spells out a single word in the only code you can remember from survival school, pressed into your eyelids like a prayer. The word is torture. You do not know if anyone watching will recognize it. You do not know if the broadcast will be clear enough, if the camera angle will capture your eyes, if anyone, in any intelligence shop anywhere in the world, will slow the footage and count the blinks. But you do it because it is the only act of resistance left to you, the only wall still standing inside your mind. And pressing your back against it is the difference between reading a script and becoming the script. You finish the confession. Your voice cracks on the last line, the line about gratitude, the line about humane treatment. And the crack is real, not performed, because the word humane, spoken in this room, underneath this light, with rope burns on your wrists, and tape residue on your eyelids, and 17 steps of concrete between you and the sky, is so obscene that your body refuses to carry it smoothly. The red light blinks off. The officer with the clipboard nods. A guard takes your arm. You are pulled upright and walked back through the door, and down a corridor you have not seen before, longer than the first, colder. The fluorescent tubes overhead buzzing and flickering, and at the end of it is a cell, small, concrete, a mat on the floor, a bucket in the corner, a slot in the door at ankle height for food trays. They push you inside. The door closes. The lock turns. The light stays on. The light, you will learn, always stays on. You sit on the mat. You pull your knees to your chest. Your hands are shaking, and you press them between your thighs to stop the tremor, but it migrates to your jaw, your shoulders, your breathing, until your whole body is vibrating with a frequency that is not cold and not fear exactly, but the aftershock of having crossed a line you can never uncross. You have confessed. You have spoken words written by your captors into a camera that will broadcast those words to the world. You are now a piece of propaganda. You are evidence that their narrative is true. And no matter what happens next, rescue, release, repatriation, trial, that footage exists. It will be played and replayed and analyzed and archived, and for the rest of your life, there will be a version of you sitting behind that microphone, in that borrowed uniform, reading words you did not write, and no amount of context or explanation or debriefing will fully erase the image. Some people will understand, some will not. Some will call you brave for surviving. Some will say you should have died first. You will hear both eventually, and you will not argue with either, because both miss the point, which is that the choice was not between courage and cowardice, but between reading the words and what would happen if you did not. And what would happen if you did not was not death. Death would have been simpler, but continuation. The same room, the same light, the same questions, the same slow disassembly of everything you thought you were, until the reading happened anyway, only later and worse, and with less of you left inside the body that read them. The light hums. The mat smells of disinfectant and old fabric and the faint sweetness of mildew. You press your forehead to your knees and you breathe. You think about the blinks. You think about whether the pattern was clean enough, whether the timing was right, whether you imagined the whole code and your eyelids were just spasming from exhaustion and nobody will ever see anything in that footage except a broken pilot reading a forced confession. You think about the instructor in the briefing room, the one who said everyone breaks. You think about how he never said what happens after. Somewhere above you, through 17 uneven steps of concrete and however many floors of building and however many miles of sky, a satellite is passing overhead, or a signals team is scanning frequencies, or an analyst is opening a file, or no one is doing anything at all, because you do not officially exist, and the aircraft was never there, and the mission never happened. You do not know which version is true. You will not know for a long time. What you know is the mat beneath you, the hum of the light that never turns off, the taste of your own blood on your lips, the words you spoke that were not your words, and beneath all of it, quieter than the hum, steadier than your breathing, the rhythm still pressing against the inside of your eyelids. Long, short, short, long. The only message you have left to send, tapped out in the dark by a body that refuses, even now, to go completely silent.